Order this hearing. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Calling to order this hearing for our nominee, Rebecca Michaels. I'm going to start off by reading the nomination letter from the governor. To introduce myself, I am chairing this hearing. I am Tara Jacobs, counselor for District 8, Western Mass, and proud to be chairing the hearing for you today. On September 17th, 2025, to the Executive Council, dear councilors, I am pleased to nominate Rebecca Michaels to the position of Associate Justice of the District Court. I submit this nomination for the advice and consent of the Executive Council pursuant to Part 2, Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I am enclosing the nominee's resume for your convenience. Sincerely, our Governor, Maura Healey. Congratulations on your nomination. Yep. So typically, let me introduce our counselors who are with us, and some are filtering in soon. We've got Counselor Dolan, Counselor Civil will be joining us shortly, Counselor Kennedy, and Counselor DiPaolo. On Zoom, we have Counselor Ziegler. And then to kick off, actually, we have a special supporter on a tight timeline. So I'm going to, before introducing your witnesses, I'm going to call up Representative Mindy Dom of Amherst, who I am so honored to have you here. You can stand there, you can stand there, you can sit, whatever makes you happy.
I'll stand if that's okay. Thank you so much for taking me out of order, counselors. We're in session, so I'm told a lot of different things and appreciate the.
How's our pay raise doing?
I'm not sure if that's in there, though. Thank you. I really appreciate being taken out of order. To be able to speak with very great enthusiasm and support the nomination of Becky Michaels to be on the District Court Associate Justice. I represent the New Hampshire District, which includes Amherst and part of Granby. And so I have the pleasure of not only knowing Ms. Michaels' work as a community member, but as her representative, she's my constituent. This could not have been a better selection. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read from my prepared statement. I don't want to mess anything up or forget anything that I wanted to say. Ms. Michaels' experience, as you know, in the Northwest District Attorney's Office has been varied and indicative of her interest and investment in equity, civic engagement, and accountability. I'm confident you are aware of the committees and programs she has initiated and led in the DA's office, and in Hampshire County, we just love our DA's office so much. The very successful drug diversion program, the model program on restorative justice, in addition to her record as an excellent trial attorney. I'm extremely proud of the District Attorney's Office and our community, and Ms. Michaels' leadership is really part of that. Her work and service have clearly contributed to their reputation and significant accomplishments as an innovative office that has improved the criminal justice system and facilitated community involvement. But I'd also like to share what I know of her community service and her interest in understanding the needs of our community and responding to them. These are important characteristics in a justice, and I believe they will contribute to her being an excellent justice. As a volunteer member of our CDBG committee, many of you may know what that is. Many of you may have served on those committees. I have, and I've also applied to those committees in a different capacity. She not only devoted hours to community outreach, review of applications, and participation in local financial decision-making, but she also oversaw the development of a community survey to provide an opportunity for recipients and providers of services to identify gaps in services and needs so that the committee could actually be working on real-time needs and real-time gaps. It's just incredible to me that this isn't done on a regular basis, but it wasn't. This effort reveals an important characteristic for a justice. Ms. Michaels' approach and her interest in hearing from impacted people before making decisions that will affect their lives. This carried through similarly when she was chair of the local Amherst Education Foundation, which is one of these local organizations that raises funds to support our schools and then makes grant money available to teachers to do sort of exceptional, i.e. out of the norm, activities for students. As chair of the local Amherst Education Foundation, she led an organization dedicated to educational equity and opportunity. And under her leadership there, AEF held listening sessions for stakeholders, families, teachers, students, which helped the organization better understand where grant making and attention was needed and could make the biggest difference. Her service as both a community volunteer and in the DA's office has demonstrated her commitment to the community, her deep caring for our neighbors, and an approach that reflects curiosity, humility, and accountability. I love when people seek out information from the community through surveys because it shows we don't know it. Community members know more. I would be remiss if I didn't share my excitement that Ms. Michaels' nomination would also add a Western Massachusetts resident to the bench, and one who, from her work and community service, understands Western Massachusetts and is invested in our region and in its people. Regional equity on the bench will provide Western Massachusetts with critical representation by someone who is obviously more than just a zip code. Her knowledge of the region is exemplary. I am confident that her strong commitment to service, to the law, to justice, and her background with public safety and a wide range of community issues and need will benefit the responsibilities and decisions of being a district court associate. Thank you for the opportunity to share these thoughts. Without reservation, I urge you to confirm. Becky Michaels.
Thank you, Mindy. Yes, Councilor Kennedy?
Say again?
You're a member of the House?
I am the member of the House
How long have you been in?
since 2019. I was elected in 2018.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a fantastic job. This is the second state representative we've had here today, which tells me that you've all of a sudden become very brave.
I've become brave because I'm before you. I'm brave because I'm a representative and I'm becoming more.
I started working in the House in 1975 for Ray Emerald.
You're the brave one.
No, trust me, I know. But it was great to see you, Representative. Thank you for coming. We
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you. Councilor,
Unfortunately, I can't stay here very long. I have an appointment I have to go to. I didn't expect we'd be this late. But I just want to say I'm fully supportive of the nominee. I've had a very long conversation with her on the phone. I think she's a fantastic candidate. I talked to her two daughters a little while ago, and one of them supportive of her nomination. So I am going to be voting for her, but unfortunately I cannot stay, and I apologize for that. I don't miss many hearings. I don't leave early very often. I probably got a 99% attendance record, but we had that long conversation on the phone, and at 1000% I'm behind you.
Thank
You'll be a great judge. I'll never see you again because I don't know. I work with Tara won't let me.
thank you, Councilor Kennedy. Mindy, before you leave, Councilor DiPaolo, I think wanted to maybe ask you something, but no, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. Sure. Councilor DiPaolo, did you have a question or comment?
I don't have a question, just Rep, I appreciate you being here. I'm the counselor from Central Mass, so I share regional concerns. And I can tell you, your counselor is an outstanding advocate for Western Mass, and we've been seeing a lot of Western Mass nominees coming in.
Fantastic. We're very grateful that she.
We're going to be in Amherst on the 22nd of the month.
Oh, then I will make sure I get that information.
You will definitely get that information.
Exciting news you've heard all day, right?
I love it when people come to Amherst.
That's right.
It's a great place. So anyway, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
It's like get my campus flyer together. Get it.
Got it.
Thank you, thank you. All right, I'm gonna call up your next witnesses, starting with the Honorable Adrian Vuorno, who is an Associate Justice of the Massachusetts Appeals Court. Thank you so much for being here.
Sure.
Thank you, Councilor Jacobs. Good afternoon, members of the Governor's Council, Attorney Michaels, whom I shall mostly call Becky during the course of these remarks, because that's how I know her, her family, friends, and supporters. My name is, I'll pronounce it slightly differently. My name is Ariane Vuorno, and I am the Senior Associate Justice of the Massachusetts Appeals Court. Let me begin by saying that I applaud the Governor and the Lieutenant Governor for nominating such a worthy candidate. It is a pleasure and an honor to speak in support of Attorney Michaels' nomination to the District Court. I have known Becky professionally and personally for about 15 years. I selected her among many qualified candidates to be my law clerk for the 2009-2010 court term. I was a fairly new judge at that time, and I depended on Becky quite a lot. As we talked about today, reminiscing, my trust in her was amply rewarded. With her assistance, my chamber stayed current and produced over 80 decisions. After her clerkship with me, she clerked with the United States District Court Judge Michael Ponser, who, I understand, spoke most eloquently in support of Becky's nomination Monday evening in Hampshire County. I will tell you that Becky is exceptional. And that is why I asked her to return to work with me as a law clerk for another year, something that rarely happens. I'm not at all surprised that she has received the honor of this nomination, and I certainly hope ultimately a confirmation as well. Becky has earned a reputation as a valued public servant. She is an excellent lawyer and has dedicated herself to the less fortunate persons in our society in working with the Northampton District Court Treatment Team, Restorative Justice, and the Conviction Integrity Unit of the Northwestern District Attorney's Office. The representative has already also noted. She has considerable experience in the courtroom in both criminal and civil matters. And more importantly, Becky's colleagues, opposing counsel, and the judges before whom she has appeared, they know her to be fair and accountable. And I was struck by the fact that the representative also used the word accountable. It may sound like a boring adjective, but actually it's so important for the members of the judiciary to be accountable for what they do. In addition, Becky has cultivated the ability to collaborate among various stakeholders. She really excels at bringing people together. And this aspect of her character is a great attribute for any judge, but it makes her particularly well suited to be a judge of the district court. A judge of the district court has a tremendous responsibility. They have a crucial role in the formation of our jurisprudence and the development of the community's understanding of fairness, equality, and justice. I know Becky is up to the task. I wholeheartedly support this nomination. Becky Michaels is intelligent, thoughtful, and has a superb understanding of the law. I have no doubt that she will be an outstanding judge. On a personal note, as a resident of Western Massachusetts, I am especially proud someone so capable joined the bench, and I am proud that Becky is my first law clerk to be nominated to the judiciary. I urge you all to vote in favor of this nomination. It will do us all very proud.
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate that very much. Does anyone have any questions? Councilor Fall.
Just thank you, Justice, so much for being here, and congrats on what hopefully will be the first of a long family tree of former clerks.
I hope so. I hope so. I plan on it.
One in the corner right now watching.
It means a lot for you to come and join us. Thank you.
Yes, and I'm not the least, as I said in my remarks, I'm not the least bit surprised. You can see quality, no matter how young or newly graduated from law school the candidate is.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Thank you so much. Thank you for your testimony. It means so much. All right, I'm probably gonna not pronounce this one correctly either, and so I apologize in advance, but I'm gonna call up Maria Pantoja.
Pantoja, yeah.
Oh, hey, all right. Thank you. Welcome, Sid.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Maria Laura Pantoja, and it's truly an honor to have to be here before you. Excuse me. It's truly an honor to be here before you today in the Governor's Council. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of Becky Michaels, with whom I've had the privilege of working with closely since 2019. To give you some context about my background, I began my career in Hampden County District Attorney's Office in 1997 and currently serve the Northwestern District Attorney's Office. Over the past 24 years, I've held a variety of roles across the criminal justice system, from support staff to supervisor, and now the director of the beloved Drug Diversion and Treatment Program. Becky joined us in the Drug Diversion and Treatment Program in 2019 as the lead prosecutor in the Community Protection Unit, and her impact was immediate. This program focuses on diverting low-level substance-related cases out of the traditional criminal court process and into recovery services in lieu of prosecution. Becky brought not only a clear vision for what the program could be, but also the determination and policy expertise to evolve it in ways that directly benefited the communities that we serve. While practicing in the district court, Becky had firsthand view of how systematic gaps affected both defendants and victims. She implemented thoughtful policy changes to expand eligibility for diversion, such as including individuals with prior records and more serious substance-related charges, and collaborated with our victim witness unit to create a protocol for victim-initiated diversion requests. Her forward-thinking and compassionate approach exemplifies her deep understanding of justice as both accountability, as we've spoken about, and opportunity. Becky's one of the most progressive and insightful attorneys I have had the pleasure of working with. She is humble, she's hardworking and maintains a calm, solution-oriented demeanor, even under pressure. Her leadership has extended well beyond the drug diversion and community prosecution, and I'd like to share a personal example that speaks volumes about her empathy and commitment to equity. Having worked in the criminal justice system since the 1990s, I've witnessed racial disparities and discrimination that continue to plague our institutions. However, it wasn't until aftermath of George Floyd's murder and the resulting national reckoning on race that we truly began to reflect on our internal culture. That was particularly difficult for many people of color, especially for us serving in those public roles. Despite over 2 decades of service, no white colleague had ever asked me what it was like to navigate this field as a person of color, until Becky did. Her simple, sincere question, have you ever experienced discrimination in your career, sparked a long and emotional conversation, and that became the catalyst for meaningful change within our office. Together, we organized a listening session for the district attorney and staff of color, a safe space where our colleagues could share their lived experience honestly, without fear and without judgment, without retaliation. That conversation marked the beginning of a deeper, ongoing institutional reflection and remains one of the most impactful gatherings I have ever attended. In 2020, Becky became a founding member of our first Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee in the Northwestern District Attorney's Office, which I chair. She continues to be an active member, reviewing internal policies, promoting staff diversity and culture, background, and perspective. She is a thoughtful, active listener who speaks out against injustice with clarity and purpose. Her advocacy is rooted in compassion, knowledge, and unwavering commitment to transformative justice. What Becky Michaels brings to the bench is empathy, integrity, a profound understanding of the human inside of the justice system, all while keeping public safety at the forefront. She sees people not just as defendants, but as individuals with families, struggles, and potential for change. She understands that a judge's decision can shape not only a person's life, but the stability of their entire family. After decades of work in the district courts across 3 counties, I've seen how powerful it is when a judge strikes a balance between compassion and accountability. I have no doubt that Becky Michaels will be the kind of judge who listens carefully, treats everyone with dignity, and makes thoughtful, fair decisions that protect the community while offering a path forward for those who deserve it. It is without reservation, I offer my wholehearted support for Ms. Becky Michaels as nomination to the district court bench. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that testimony. It was really powerful. Does anyone have any questions?
I'm sorry. I just want to thank you. It's
Pantoja, yes.
for being here. We've had a couple nominees from your office in the last couple of years, and just everything I learned is so impressive. And the work you're doing, and including the work you do as director of the diversion treatment program, it's just wildly impressive. It sounds like models for things that we could expand across the rest of the Commonwealth. So your testimony was really powerful. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And we would like to, maybe we could talk about, expanding the drug diversion.
It's on my agenda, actually. Yeah, you may very well hear.
Thank you.
Love it. I love it. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for your words. They're really very powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out to the State House today. Before I turn it over to you, actually, would you just go around the room and introduce for us those who are here to support you today?
Absolutely. And I'm going to talk about those 3 in my remarks, but my daughter Katie is there, my daughter Claire, my husband Peter, my friend as of today, Hashima Moja, who came with Maria, either a chauffeur or passenger, I'm not sure. My friend and defense counsel, Kevin Kelly, who I've worked with for years and years, and who has been a great friend and in our adversarial system, not one at all. We really are, have worked really closely together. And then who I also just met, who's future judge.
Trying to make him blush today, I think. Before I turn it over to, is there anyone here who has come to speak in opposition of this nominee? Okay.
I have one more introduction, who just snuck in. No, I'm absolutely introducing Erin Freeborn, who is the Executive Director of Communities for Restorative Justice. Another person everybody should meet. She runs the community partner that our DA's office partnered with to do our restorative justice diversion work. And she's based in Boston, but we had a pilot program in Hampshire County that is about to be expanded into Franklin County and does incredible work bringing restorative justice into the criminal court system.
Welcome, welcome. Please don't leave without talking to me, because I definitely. All right, and with that, I turn the floor to you to share your personal statement with us.
I'm so happy to be here today. Thank you all. First to the counselors, I thank you all for welcoming me this afternoon and taking the time over the last week and even up to this morning to get to know me. I thank Governor Healy and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll for bringing me to this position. I thank Jesse Boudou, Derek Hesselheim, and Kimberly Baptiste for their support and care throughout this process. And Sonia Altamirano, whom I haven't met in person yet, but I'm in this room. Hello, and my endless questions over the last couple of weeks. We recently found a recording of a radio show that my grandmother hosted in New York decades ago, on which I had appeared one month as the guest. I was 13. During the interview, my grandmother asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I said, a judge. 42 years later, I am deeply honored to be sitting here before you. I'm here today with my dream team, my husband, Peter, and my daughters, Katie and Claire. Peter is a captain in the Department of Conservation and Recreation. He works in the woods and the trails of Western Massachusetts and runs the search and rescue operations both on and off DCR properties. It is not unusual for our evenings to be interrupted by him heading out to locate a lost elderly person with dementia or a child who wandered away from a campsite. My daughter, Katie, is 24 and in her second year of a 3-year program at Tufts, where she's getting her master's in school psychology with the goal of working with teenagers. Claire is 21 and a junior at UMass Amherst, majoring in sociology and eager to head straight into nursing school, where she's particularly interested in working in women's health. I provide all that information because it illustrates that we are a family that cares about people. We have each found our own path toward helping people, but that path comes from a home we built where caring for our fellow human beings is the foundational principle about how we think about our role in the greater community. I was born on an avocado farm in Southern California to 2 hippie parents, only one of whom was out of their teens, and neither of whom would have been able to purchase alcohol legally today. You'll perhaps not be shocked to hear that the relationship didn't last. And although today I have a wonderful collection of parents, it was not all roses and butterflies to get here. Like so many children of multiple divorces, I have witnessed rage, alcoholism, mental health crises, suicide attempts, estrangement, and the instability of a home where you don't know what's going to be on the other side of the door when you walk through. But I'm one of the lucky ones, because in addition to that list of traumas, I have another list that includes unconditional love, financial resources, access to education, and emphasis on learning, and an enormous support system of friends and family. And I share this here because these experiences, my childhood, clearly impacted who I am as an adult, who I have been as a prosecutor, and how I will be if confirmed to be a judge in the district court. My one goal has always been to be a good person who does the right thing. What that has meant to me as a prosecutor is to approach my role as a public servant focused on public safety and to include in my definition of public all people, including those charged with crimes. My job in serving the public is to ensure that justice is done in each case I touch. I have never been a prosecutor who understands her job to be about winning or punishment. I understand that each person who appears in court is more than the incident that brought them there and is more than their worst mistake. Most of the people who end up in the court system, victims and defendants alike, have suffered trauma and extreme hardship. While this is not an excuse for committing crimes or treating others badly, the appropriate response to the behavior must include a recognition of the underlying issues that lead people to harm each other. Both of my daughters have chronic health conditions that at times have brought these two strong and resilient people to their knees. With the right resources, however, they are now thriving in spite of the pain, the anxiety, and the dread that accompanies such diagnoses. They've given me permission to reference this because I want to describe my own relevant growth through their ordeals, which is this. As an outsider, and I think this goes for a parent, a prosecutor, and a judge, it can be very easy to make assumptions about the right course of conduct for a person who is in the throes of a difficult situation, and to grow frustrated when they don't take your advice. What I have learned is that perseverance looks different for each person, and that true support requires unwavering patience. I've had the opportunity throughout my career to be promoted to the Superior Court. Each time I've made the decision to remain in district court. Although in my 15 years working in the district court, I have seen terrible things, what keeps me there and why I want to be a judge there are two specific truths. First, it is a court where the goal is to return people to their communities. And second, it is a court that can provide immediate relief to desperate people. I am an optimist to my core. My daughters would probably tell you that it can be kind of nuts. I'm always finding the upside and the silver lining. But my optimism gives me great faith that people can be rehabilitated and made safe if provided with necessary resources. The district court is a place where we tailor probation conditions to address the issues raised, where we manage safety concerns, where we connect people with community resources. And we do all of this based on the hope that people can get through bad times, hard times, criminal times, and come out the other end in a better place. If confirmed, I will endeavor to be a judge who works to recognize that the power that comes with this position must be used wisely, fairly, and with empathy and compassion. I will work to be a judge who understands that the district court is a place where all people must feel heard and safe and be treated with dignity and respect. I'm honored to sit before you today as a member of this Commonwealth's legal community. I ask for your confirmation of my nomination to the district court, and I look forward to answering any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna start by offering an opportunity to Counselor Civil to ask questions.
Thank you, Counselor Jacobs. Congratulations, Rebecca, on your nomination. It was wonderful to have a conversation with you. And, I know Counselor Jacob is a great supporter of yours and is excited about this nomination. And I'm excited as well because we had an opportunity to have an in-depth conversation as far as what it means to be a judge and how we treat people that comes in into the courtroom at a vulnerable time in their lives as we celebrate the awareness of domestic violence for October. We know how difficult it could be for anyone who is impacted by domestic violence to speak in front of a judge, and then you have a whole variety of people in the courtroom who is listening to something that can be embarrassing to some. And I know we had a conversation which made me really pay attention to the type of woman that you are. When you shared your personal experience on what anxiety looks like and what trauma looks like, without getting into too much detail of your personal life. But it was refreshing to know that you know what the signs are as a judge and to call it when it is and when to know to step back and have a recess and allow a victim to regroup and to speak to someone within a trying time of their life. Can you speak to me on or those who are tuning in and watching us on YouTube, how important is it for you to recognize the sign when someone is going through a traumatic experience when it comes to domestic violence?
Thank you for that question. Domestic violence is, it's so present in our society and comes into the district court in a variety of ways. Sometimes somebody who's been charged with a crime, sometimes a victim who's coming and seeking a restraining order. And often, victims are often, when they're before the court, they're not represented by counsel, and they're in the most vulnerable moment of their lives, feeling unsafe. Often the person that they are most afraid of is standing 2 feet away from them while they're trying to get a restraining order. And often that person may be represented by counsel if that person is accused of a crime. And so I think recognizing what it feels like, and I don't base this on my personal experience, but my experience in court, what it feels like to stand and have to, as you described, provide that kind of information to a complete stranger up there on the bench and convince them of the terror that you're in. I think it's something that judges have to be so attuned to, and recognize what it must feel like to stand there by yourself and have to do that. Something I will always keep in mind.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm gonna move it over to Counselor Jolin.
Thank you so much, and I will echo Civil Counselor Jacobs is a big supporter of your. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me. I really enjoyed and appreciated our discussion, and I'm delighted to know that you're an optimist to the core. I am too.
Okay.
And I think it's a really important quality to have in our district courts in a judge, because we are being hopeful as we resolve cases. That's something that they can get to a better place than the criminal justice system at its best actually helps people do that. And I know that that's been what a lot of your work has been about, and I really appreciate it. So I just have a couple questions for you. I wanted to ask you, as we discussed, about your work on the Brady Committee. Brady, of course, refers to Brady versus Maryland, the Supreme Court decision which established that defendants, of course, have a right to exculpatory evidence. And you talked about working with the 50 police departments in your district, and that you had reached out to them. And my question when we met, and again to you today, is how did you know that they were disclosing accurately, that they were in fact fully disclosing?
Well, thank you for the question. And I know we talked about this before, and I'll say again, I think, we've tried to do in our district in sort of pre-gathering police misconduct information, police information, was to reach out to the police chiefs and to emphasize to them the critical importance of being upfront and candid and truthful with all of the information that they have, because it is going to come out in some way. It is. And in the end, if a conviction has to be overturned because we haven't disclosed rating information because we don't have it, that's the worst case scenario for everybody. And so I believe the police chiefs understood that, and provided us with the information they have. What I can say is when Post was developed and came out with their list, it was very similar to ours. So I think all of that information is now in the public realm, in addition to it being told to us over the last 5 or 6 years.
And my only other question to you is one that I asked, not because you didn't answer my questions, not because I have any doubts about this, but just to anybody who's watching. Because you've never been a defense attorney, do you think that that will impact the work that you do as a judge?
I don't think it will, and I appreciate the question. It's certainly a fair question. I have always strived as a prosecutor to look at every person charged with a crime and every defendant as an individual, and to learn as much about that individual as I can, and to work collaboratively with defense counsel in figuring out how a case should be resolved. How can the court system best assist this person where they're at that time? And I think because that's how I have gone about prosecution, I'll bring that same mindset to being a judge if confirmed.
Thank you. I think you will. Thank you very much. No further questions.
Thank you very much. Okay, I see Counselor Ziegler's face on the screen. So are you ready to ask questions? So I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you so much. Congratulations on your nomination and for making it to this stage. You and I had a lovely conversation about your career, your plight, and what you're looking to do on the bench. I always ask of every candidate, why now? Why is it a good time for you to seek after this role? And you mentioned that it was a good time for you and your family, and that you've been encouraged to go forward with your candidacy for the bench. We talked about. I truly enjoyed our conversation We talked about communication between various courts and how that could be improved and how that may impact you know, should you be confirmed. Can you talk a little bit more about, you know, ways that you yourself could see that you could see yourself supporting a streamlined process within your courtroom where there may be an instance of the clients having multiple cases in various courts?
Sure, thank you for that question. And it was nice to speak with you this morning on the phone. I think part of streamlining information is it's part of the general information gathering that is such an important part of a judge's role, and in understanding and learning everything that they can about the litigant before them, or the defendant before them. And that often would include inquiring about what other court matters are going on. And sometimes it's obvious if you're looking at somebody's query that they have open criminal matters in another court, for example, but there may be other courts where there are issues going on, and I think it's important to ask defense counsel and the defendant themselves whether there are other issues that would be relevant to whatever a disposition might be in a criminal matter. That I think becomes part of the important information that's being gathered.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, and we talked about, you know, relative to that, the courts don't necessarily all communicate with one another. So it is definitely very important for you, should you be confirmed, to be on top of whether or not there are other factors that may impact the case that's before you. You know, you have an extensive background. You definitely, you know what you're doing. We talked about whether there'd be a learning curve, you know, and what that learning curve would be. And you mentioned that civil cases would be an area that you'd be looking to sharpen your knowledge set in. Can you speak to a little bit more to how you intend to do that? And, you know, what resources you'd be relying on?
Sure, thank you. Yes, I think the civil area is the area where I would most need to brush up. And I think the trial court has a lot of resources, and I would take advantage of all of those. There are a lot of MCLEs and reading case law that's coming out. I've already started doing that and would certainly continue to do that, as I always have for criminal matters. And the other thing, and I think that I had mentioned to you, is that I have heard from judges in Western Mass, and I imagine that it is true throughout the state, is that they really rely on each other as well for support and for finding out which case is most relevant to a particular civil matter that maybe there are a criminal matter. People have expertise in different areas. So I would also really look forward to relying on colleagues as I was getting up to bringing my knowledge up to where it is in the criminal law. And I really look forward to it. I love learning, and I would look forward to it.
Yes. Thank you for that. You know, there's always more to learn, you know, no matter how far we get in terms of our career paths. And I appreciate that you are thinking about this intentionally and wanting to ensure that you have access to resources to continue that path of learning. You know, one of the things that will be different is you'll be sitting on the other side of the bench. And so you would bring with you all of your experience as an attorney to the bench. How would you look to ensure that the clients that are coming before you are fully aware of, you know, the intricacies of their case that they're presenting, that counsel is presenting for them, especially in instances where, you know, counsel may not be prepared, or it's clear to you that the client may not have all the sets of information that they need to in order to put their best foot forward?
Thank you for that question. It's such an important one because there are certainly different levels of representation and people who appear pro se in the court. And it's essential that a judge believes that every person before her knows what's happening in that moment, knows what their rights are, knows what their options are. And I think part of what my role would always be is to assess where the litigant is in their understanding of what's going on and question them directly if necessary. There are a lot of different ways of giving a colloquy, for example, of having conversations with a litigant who's at the podium. And I think really digging in on particular issues if it feels like they don't know what's going on, or if I'm aware that their counsel may not be providing them with all of the relevant information. I think that's absolutely one of the most essential roles of a judge, is to make sure that anybody before her knows what's going on in the courtroom.
Thank you. And my last question would be, say that you're confirmed, what legacy would you be looking to establish from the bench?
Thank you for that. It's interesting to think about. And I think what I always want people to think when they see me or think about me is that I was fair. And that even if they don't agree with the decision I ultimately made, that I came to it fairly, that I listened to all of the evidence before me, and that even if the decision wasn't the one they wished it was, they felt heard and they felt that it was fair.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for taking the time to answer my questions with intention. No further questions.
Thank you, Counselor Ziegler. And move it over to Counselor Papala.
Thank you, Counselor. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
I know we only spoke extraordinarily briefly ahead of the hearing. But as I mentioned to you and I alluded to with Dome, the council's an interesting job and everyone approaches it different, but I've heard of you because I know Counselor Jacobs took an interest in your application and has been advocating for you for a while. Your experience, though, speaks for itself. As I told you also, everyone I've spoken to, I mean, the things I hear coming out of the Northwest DA's office are amazing, and they model what people like me and I think a lot of the council want to see in terms of diversion and making sure we're reducing recidivism and we're addressing root causes and we're really community focused. So I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I certainly hope that you end up seated in or near the communities where you know where these resources are. Throughout your application and the letters that we received on your behalf talks about the way you connect people to resources, your outreach, and you know the network. And it's so important that we have judges sitting where they have that network. However, I do also trust that if for some reason you end up not there, I have a feeling you'll be doing that kind of outreach to get the lay of the land as well. I certainly hope that you end up is where your community would most benefit from you. So I have no questions. Congratulations. I look forward to supporting you when we vote on your nomination. Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you. Several counselors mentioned the letters of support that came in on your behalf, and we received a number. I've shared with council a summary report of our hearing that we held locally in Northampton on Monday. The highlights of which I was struck by a number of factors. One is how well attended it was. It's a very large courtroom and we basically filled it. I think there's probably at least 80 people turned out to support you, which says a lot. But also the nature of the comments that were shared on your behalf were so consistent and built a picture that spoke so highly of your qualifications, your intelligence, and how thorough you are and organized you are, and well prepared you are, and it kind of went on and on. But also that your temperament is just exactly what they and we, I believe, as a council would like to see on the bench. Someone who is kind and who is a great listener was said. I think almost every single person commented on what a great listener you are, and that you look at people for who they are without judgment and love them for where they are and where you hope they can go. And so I share all of that just because I wrote a little report and I did share it with for council for their consideration as well. But I was struck, I've done a bunch of these hearings locally now, and yours is one of the ones that I think I'll remember for a long time, just because not just what was said, the fact there was applause after each speaker was unique and different. But I think communicated the enthusiasm perfectly of just we heard a lot of words, but there was emotion in the room, and I think that really reflected the emotion in the room in a powerful way.
Get it?
I too don't have a lot of questions for you. We've talked over the last, I don't even know how long, over a year at least, about various things, and more recently. But I am struck by what you bring to the bench, not just with the more recent experience that you've had as a DA and all the work that you've done with restorative justice, with DEI, with diversion, just the way in which you've approached that side of the aisle, I think says a lot about who you are and the impact you've had. But the fact that it was a late career choice for you, that you had a whole other life, a whole other career before you decided to go to law school and pursue this, I think speaks a lot to what you bring to the bench and the diversity of life experience that you bring to the bench that I think will serve us well. So I will not belabor this any longer. I appreciate everyone for sticking around as long as they have. With that, I will close this hearing. And I encourage everyone to go out on the balcony and get a picture. Yeah.